So with the release of Phase 2 of Legion Remix, we've not only gotten a bunch of new content, but we've also gotten a bunch of pretty massive changes that will have a really big impact on how people play Legion Remix going forward, including some pretty massive buffs to both DPS and healer specializations. Now, first off, we have the new content coming with Phase 2, which is Rise of the Nightfallen, so we're getting Return to Karazhan, the first Mega Dungeon, which will be in its Mega Dungeon state, but you can also get keys for the split up version. And I have yet to do the Mega Dungeon version of this, so I'm not actually sure how good that is for farming gear or anything else, but you will have a bit more variety in doing your Mythic Plus runs if you're not trying to do just like Arc Ways or something like that. And then we have the new raid of Nighthold, I think considered one of the best raids in the game's history. Really interesting raid, even though it's Legion Remix and people are so geared now that you probably won't even come across a lot of the mechanics, but it's a new raid to go do, and it will just speed up gearing in general because that's another raid you can go do to gear up more quickly. And then you also have the continuation of the Suramar questline with the Insurrection campaign. So if you've been doing the Suramar questline, you can continue that as well. And then we have some really impactful changes coming with Phase 2, the first of which being massive buffs to both healer and damage specializations. And these buffs are specifically when running Keystone. So when doing Mythic Plus, these buffs are going to apply. And in one of my recent videos, I went over some updates that were giving both damage and healer specializations pretty massive healing and damage buffs, but that didn't really fix the issue of in high Mythic Plus, those roles just dying. And that's why everybody was still just running tanks, because you could still do really good damage and not die, but now they're trying to address that as well. So while running any Keystone dungeons, damage dealers will be getting the gift of Eternus Slayer. So Eternus grants damage dealers 10% increased damage done, 100% increased health, and 33% decreased damage taken. So an even bigger increase to damage, a massive increase to health, and a massive reduction in damage taken, primarily so DPS can just actually survive things. And then you have Gift of Eternus Savior for the healers, which Eternus grants healers 10% increased damage done, 10% increased healing and absorbs, 100% increased health, and 33% decreased damage taken. So similar to the damage dealers, healers just get more output, but also have massively increased health and take massively reduced damage at all times when in Mythic Plus runs. And this is definitely going to change how people are running Mythic Plus runs, especially at the higher end. You're definitely going to want probably normal groups now, a tank, DPS, and a healer, which I think is just much better and much more healthy. Every high-end group pretty much just all running tanks because healers and damage dealers literally can't survive. This will also have the side effect, because one of the ways they're making both these roles so much more tanky is they have a lot more health, that healers will actually have something to heal now, because previously once you got to the point where things are actually damaging you, because healers and DPS just couldn't survive them, it would just die. So healers were again like double useless. Now healers will actually have something to heal when you're in high Mythic Plus, because everything has so much more health. And tanks are also getting the gift of Eternus Protector. Eternus grants tanks 10% increased healing received from other players, so now tanks will actually be able to get more healing, even though I think with all the leech and with how most tanks already have some amount of healing in their kits, that I don't think tanks are really going to be getting healed a ton through this or through anything really. I think it's more so just going to be spot healing to help bring them up a bit more quickly if they take a ton of damage, and then the rest of their kit will do the rest. So now we can actually have Mythic Plus runs as actual Mythic Plus runs with a normal group with tank, healer, and DPS to make the combat and just the gameplay feel much more interesting. I think the 5 tank thing kind of got really boring because realistically, nobody was dying. You were completely reliant on pretty much just grouping up tons of things, all using your artifact abilities to blow it all up. That did get pretty stale. So I'm glad we're having actual groups do these dungeons now. And then we've also gotten some pretty massive buffs to open world content. So level 80 time runners will now receive fragmented mementos of epoch challenges and loot for the following content: world bosses, rare enemies on a daily lockout, and emissary quests. But completing both world bosses and those rare enemies on a daily lockout in a heroic world tier will grant even more fragmented mementos. Now the fragmented mementos are the epic item that you get 100 of, and then you turn into a bunch of stamina and a bunch of infinite power that scales higher and higher as you get more infinite knowledge. And going into doing this on a level 80 in Heroic World Tier, all of the rare enemies you defeat will give you 3 of them, which actually isn't bad because you can actually kill pretty much all the elites in Heroic World Tier pretty quickly. So 3 of them per rare per day is actually pretty good. And there are rare enemies absolutely everywhere. I'd recommend getting an add-on that shows you the location of all of them because they are absolutely everywhere. So you can farm a lot of infinite power just from killing open world rares on a daily basis now. The world bosses, I'm not actually sure how much this gave me, but you really only have the one world boss to do, so I don't think that's going to be a big deal. And pretty much everybody's doing it anyway, so that's just a little bit of an extra. But then you also have emissary quests, which you don't have to do in Heroic World Tier, but I'd recommend being in a Heroic World Tier anyway. You're doing all of the world quests for those. And if you don't know what these actually are, when you're on your main map, so not your mini map, go check on the bottom left. There will be a little emissary thing where it has you do a certain amount of world quests for a specific faction. Then you get a quest turn in at that faction vendor where they just give you a quest with a bunch of rewards. And now it seems that every one of these emissary quests will be giving you 20 fragmented mementos. So just running around and doing a bunch of world quests and killing a bunch of rares, completing your emissaries, doing your world bosses will actually be giving you a ridiculous amount of infinite power through these fragmented mementos. And this probably won't actually take a lot of time, and you'll be kind of double dipping because a lot of world quests are just to go kill one specific enemy, and those are always a rare enemy. So you'll be getting more of the mementos through just doing that. So you'll get mementos from the rare, you'll get a bunch of bronze and infinite power from the rare. It being a world quest will just give you the world quest completion, which will also just help towards your emissaries. Doing open world content, or specifically doing open world objective content, is actually going to be pretty worthwhile to do. And also keep in mind that every rare you kill has a chance to give you the motes that you turn into a piece of gear when you get 10. All of the world quests you're doing will also give you a box that will give you more motes. And then turning in your emissary quest will also give you a chest with more gear and more motes. So you'll not only be gearing somewhat decently, but you'll also be getting a lot more infinite power. So just going and doing all this open world content is actually good for overall progression in Legion Remix now. I don't think it's going to be as efficient as just spam running Mythic Plus dungeons if you can do that pretty effectively, but this is something completely different you can do. You can do it completely solo. It's generally easier content, especially if you're even a little bit geared or progressed on a level 80 character. And I think this will also be a lot better for once you get new characters up to level 80. You'll be able to go do all this open world content to get some pretty fast progression pretty quickly to get to a point where you can actually get invited to some lower Mythic Plus dungeons. So overall, I think this is probably one of the most positive changes we've gotten so far. But then we also got 2 additional changes for Mythic Plus dungeons. Time-worn Keystone dungeons now award gear when completing with a successful time. I'm not really sure why they added this back in. This gear is working how it used to work before they removed it, where it goes off of your Mythic Plus run's Keystone level. It doesn't go off of your item level, which they removed this because you could just boost other people up. You could just have a bunch of max out characters, bring like a new level 80 into a high Keystone dungeon, and you would get a guaranteed really high item level piece of gear, which it seems that's just exactly what they added back into it. I'm not really sure why they added this back in. I thought it was significantly better that you just got a lot more motes of broken time instead of getting pieces of gear, because that would just be fully based on your own progression instead of just being boosted in high Mythic Plus dungeons. And the number of motes of broken time awarded from completing a time-worn Keystone dungeon has been reduced. I don't think this has been reduced back down to what it was previously, but they kind of just partially reverted changes they already made, which I thought were really positive changes. You don't get actual gear drops. Instead, you just get the motes of broken time. So it's fully based on your own progression. I don't know why they re-added this back, but there may be a positive thing that comes from this because there are so many players that are like 740 item level with super high infinite power now. You may just see those super high geared characters just doing free boosts for newer players going forward. I've seen some of it already, so that may be a good thing that comes out of this, that the super high geared players that are just boosting lower geared characters and higher Mythic Plus runs, which can just help out the community in general. I do think this is a weird change to re-implement back in when I think they already made it better in general. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.